What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead. We got a new story trailer today, and I gotta say, the game is it's turning a corner for me. To really put this into context of where I'm going in this video, well, number one, I think this game looks extremely good. And, we've only seen it twice, granted, right? But every time we've seen it, it looks a little bit better. From the announcement, and the reason why that's an important thing, I guess, this really felt like a game, and to a degree it still does, where I feel like they're going very fast. I feel like this game can come out, and I'm hoping now, and actually I'm feeling better and better, again, the more we see of it, that this is like a welcome surprise. Like, oh, this is a way of doing a horror game based off of a horror movie franchise, right? Doing it differently, like, you wouldn't believe it, but we're actually getting a single player, kind of adventure type game here versus all of the asymmetrical games we get, right? That's a big part of this to me that I kept seeing actually more and more in comments where it's like, even if it does look a little rough around the edges, and even if the game comes out and it is rough around the edges, I actually think, and this is just my point of view, I want this game to succeed, to show people, show the industry, show whoever it needs to show, that you can do games like this. And it's not to put down the asymmetrical horrors. I've actually covered every one of them, going back to Friday the 13th, obviously, going back even before that to Dead by Daylight. You got the Predators of the world. You got Killer Clowns that just came out. I think Killer Clowns is actually a pretty solid game. But I will say, I'm growing very, very tired of every game that comes out. It has to be asymmetrical. It's got to be 4v1 or some equivalent, 4v3, 7v1, 8v, whatever Killer Clowns is, 7v3, right? It's okay, and I mean, like, they last an okay length of time, then they kind of die out, but I do think we need more games like this. If we ever get a Halloween game, I want to be able to show the industry, I want the industry, I guess, to see, right, that we can do a Halloween game that's maybe not just a multiplayer Michael Myers versus everybody else. Same thing for Scream, and anything else you can think of. And I do think that's a big part of it. I know, if you're just talking about A Quiet Place, it doesn't really matter where the industry goes after it. But I do think it's kind of important because it's like the movie franchise is doing well. You just had the release of the newest film that's doing better than any of the other ones, right? It's a franchise kind of on the move and kind of on the upswing, right? So it's actually very, very clever time to have a game that is what kind of worries me, right? I've talked about that before, where they announced this out of left field. And, it kind of gets some people to talk about it, to think about it, not too many people. You see it shortly after, which that's not a bad thing. But there's a couple of things, namely what we just said, that kind of say to me, is this going to be like a Jumanji game? Is this the return of these, again, movie tie-in type things where you see the Golems of the world? While maybe not a movie tie-in, it's a studio that's understaffed. It's a studio that's under-budgeted, and they don't know what they're doing, and, they have to get the thing out in 9 months, and they come up with a terrible product. I think it is possible Quiet Place could maybe be, and I don't know if you can beat Gollum for like one of the worst games of all time, but I am still a little concerned just because of the timeline. Yet again, my eyes, right? I mean, that's my heart. That's my just looking at the history of games, right? What my eyes see is actually a game that looks pretty well polished. Looks like it's going to be doing a couple. I mean, you look at the story trailer, right? There's like shooting sections. Now, I don't expect like a freaking Uncharted 4, chase scene kind of sequence, but it's got a little bit of action. It's got some cutscenes. It's got some emotion, right? We see about the main character, and she's going through stuff, and being with a person, and just the simple idea of you're walking into this environment, everything's so quiet, he's pointing to a direction, you see the camera nod from like our character's point of view. The game looks really good, and it's easy to do it in general for trailers, right? You can make a game look good in trailers, or you can mislead people in trailers versus when the game comes out. Totally possible. But what we saw with that first trailer, which was more of a cinematic, that might be, if you're going to make a trailer pitching Quiet Place, that's the trailer you make. And now that's probably a scene later on in the game, but that's what you would show. This one, still a little cinematic, but it actually had some movement to it. You saw a couple sequences, and at least me, maybe you guys can let me know in the comments, I feel like you kind of get, we all know like the point of A Quiet Place, right? Like being very, very quiet. It's different seeing it now in the game. And there's maybe like 2 or 3 instances in the trailer where they make a point where it is pure gameplay, it's silent, and it's slow. And they, you can't linger on that too much because it's like a minute, minute or so trailer. You can't stay on it for 2, 3, 4 minutes. that is the potential of this game. I mean, I think that's what kind of gravitated people towards in the first place. To do a game, I mean, you think of the movies. I think the movies are extremely, extremely good. You think of a game where you've just always got to be so cautious. You've always got to be so quiet. And storytelling, even like the storytelling part of it, can be really interesting, right? Because you have to do everything either very quietly or just no talking at all. So from that element, it's not even that difficult to do, I would imagine. And then from the gameplay, you don't want it to be too drawn out, but you do want to make people have to take their time and be very, very cautious. But there's a lot of moments that you can make people tense, have that kind of feeling towards the game. When it was shown the first time, people said, if this can be anything like Alien Isolation just with A Quiet Place, then it would be like a game either contender. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I still feel that the game is almost moving too fast. Not that I don't want games to release quickly after they're announced, but I feel like this thing was thrown together rather fast. So there is a part of, and you can like that or dislike it. It's totally fine if you don't like that kind of mindset from me. There's a part of me that is being cautious because I don't want to get too excited and think, oh my God, this is going to be the greatest thing. And then maybe it turns out to a complete disaster. I want to have that just in the back of my head where, I think there are a couple worrisome things that I just want to be, aware of. But at the same time, I think they're doing a very impressive job. If they didn't have me before this trailer, they certainly have me now. Still no date, but this is a game I'm watching. You know what I mean? I think we need gameplay. And we got gameplay, like a couple seconds of it in this trailer, but if you were to show me 5 to 7 minutes of this game, right? That would be, to me, like the final mark. You're either going to say, I'm going to buy it based off these 5 minutes, or I'm not going to buy it. That's what I'm waiting for. I think that's next, or it should be next at least. And, again, we don't have a date. So, if this thing comes out in November, December, they still have time for, 1 or 2 more showings, basically, of it. And I think we would hopefully get that gameplay. So let me know what you guys thought of the trailer and the game. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel. Bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.